write those, I would just focus on this one. These are just examples we're going to talk about. But you're going to create an education at the end of this where you're going to be comparing and contrasting an epidemic versus a pandemic. If you don't have your iPad, that's fine. You can do it by hand. You can do a storyboard, kind of like an Instagram story, whatever. But you're gonna show how it starts, one person with a virus and how it spreads into many, while also telling us what a pan and epidemic is. Okay?
There is a movie called Contagion, and it's rated PG-13, but it is really good. It tells about, and it was made in 2011, so it's not that old. So if you want to watch it and take notes on it, it's really good. It shows you how things are in real life and how they have to go in with the CDC and contain organisms like pathogens and stuff like that so it won't spread all over the place, and how they actually clean things up after it does spread.
Yeah. And as we go through this, I know there's lots of controversy. And like I said earlier, this is the first pandemic I've personally ever experienced. So, it's kind of being in a different world right now. But just think about if we weren't taking precautions, how quickly it could spread and how dangerous that could be. Because we've never experienced it before. So the first question, what's going on in the world right now? You guys should be able to tell me the coronavirus, and it's spread globally, which means that it originated in China and it is now here in the United States, which is a very, very long way to travel. So as we start to look at this, does it travel by air, over sea? How does it get here if it started in China, which is our main goal of being able to answer that question today. So a disease outbreak happens when a disease occurs and spreads in greater numbers than expected in a community or region during a season. So do we expect people to get the flu every year? Yes, we do. It's expected. People don't have great immune systems if they've been compromised, if they're on chemotherapy, dialysis, if they have some underlying factor, if they're not just, as healthy as other people, if they're older. So people are gonna get sick. That's a part of reality, but it becomes an issue when more people get sick than what's expected. So you have two different types of outbreaks. You have an epidemic, and then you have a pandemic. You can remember those however you want. This is one of those things I always want you guys to have hands-on experience with, so you can create those learning experiences. This is real life today, so I don't think you'll have trouble differentiating the two. The coronavirus started out as an epidemic. And why did it start out as an epidemic? Because it was not worldwide. There were more cases than expected because we've never seen this virus. I don't know if was it present? It had to be present before because it's on the present. Right. Yeah, but it hasn't been present for years, and out of nowhere it's originated. Yeah, so there were more cases than expected, and again, it originated in China. Okay, and it began to spread rapidly to these people. So that's why 2 and 3 weeks ago we're hearing about this, and it's fun and games, making jokes until it affects you
or someone you know.
Yeah, or someone you know. But you start to see this epidemic, not worldwide, in one local region, but it's spread into a lot more people than originally thought. And that's when it becomes a problem because, we don't always understand, but we have a lot more than other countries do as far as medicine goes. It's just in general. And so hospitals, they're not built for stuff like this. It's not built to hold this many people and to care for this many people because this is not normal, if that makes sense. So an epidemic starts locally, does not really spread anywhere. It's not worldwide, but there are more cases than expected of it. Now what's happened, and for instance, another example, malaria comes from mosquitoes, right? And so we don't necessarily expect to get that. And let's say North Carolina, mosquitoes are bad. We don't expect that to get that here. But in Africa, there's tons of cases of malaria, right? And so, you know, you take proper precautions, but if more cases are present, it becomes an epidemic, and you start having to send more supplies to make sure people are okay. A pandemic is when we go from it being more local to, and more local, I mean like in China or in Europe where it took over, to now it's come from there to the United States as well. So it's present across the globe at this point, which is a huge global, national, just international problem. There are far higher numbers than epidemics. So there's tons more cases, there's extreme cases, and hospitals and medical facilities who aren't prepared for this, you know, they're doing the best they can because it's just not equipped to handle a pandemic like that, or like we're experiencing now. So pandemic worldwide, everybody is kind of being affected. Now, does that mean that everybody here's gonna experience it? No, but that's why we take proper precautions, if that makes sense, okay? This happened, I think I was in 10th grade, the swine flu, you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I was actually, I had swine flu.
Oh my gosh, she had the swine flu. Anyways,
but everybody, I mean, it was like,
yeah, that was crazy. That went kind of worldwide. The coronavirus now, and then the flu in general. It's also been pandemic before, as well as the epidemic. And like we talked about in our last video, if people have not been introduced to this disease, their immune system is not prepared to fight it. So as people's bodies learn how to attack this in the future, if it prevails itself again, your body will be more adapt to fight it. All right. And again, influenza pandemics have occurred before. So key points: epidemic is more generalized, more local. There's a lot more cases than expected, but it's still maintained in that one area. And then pandemic, there are a ton more cases than in an epidemic, and it's gone global. So huge deal, not a good deal. So make sure you get your notes. And then you're going to discuss in your education the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic. And any other research that you want to do is phenomenal. I think it's an amazing time to kind of,
really interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And don't.
Mr. Powell, please come to the office. Mr. Powell,
There's never
please come to
changed.
the front office with card.
Don't let it fill you with anxiety. Learn the science of it. Okay.
Mr. Powell.
Yeah. And then just a few examples. How does it spread? So how does it get from on the other side of the world to LaGrange, North Carolina, or to North Carolina in general, and all across the United States? So how does that happen? And I could think of a few ways, but this is just one idea that popped in my head. And we'll do this one. So let's say that I am going to a conference that happens to be in China. Be a long ways away. I'm terrified of flying, but I would go because, you know, it's a new experience. It'd be cool. So I get up, I leave, I go to China, and while I'm in China, there is an outbreak of this coronavirus, right? Now, I can't get in my car and go home. The airports have kind of been put on lockdown to not let people out. But before all of this happens, I come in contact with somebody who actually has the virus, and I don't know it because I don't show the symptoms for a few days out, right? I finish my conference. and I get back on my plane to come back home to North Carolina. Okay? Now, let's say that I get back in the United States, right? And I don't know where my plane would land. Let's say that I landed in California. Okay? Now, at the California airport, one of the airports, let's say there's a plane going to Dallas, California, another part of California, Spain, and where else, Miss Pate? Where should we go? New York, wherever. Okay. In the airport, on my flight back from China, I'm sitting beside passengers, right? So let's say that she's on this side of me, and and there's another person over here on this side. Okay. And y'all know I'm terrified on airplanes, so I accidentally grab onto them,
And I have
during takeoff and landing. And don't forget, I've been introduced to this virus that I don't know I have, and I feel fine right this second. But I've touched them, so now I've spread the virus to 2 people, 2 more people besides myself. Okay, and I sneezed, and all of it didn't get caught in my jacket. So a little virus went into the person in front of me's nostril, up into their system. Now they have the virus as well. Blech, gross, right? Everybody feels fine. I get back to, let's say, the California airport, or let's say Raleigh, because we all know where Raleigh is, most of us, I hope. Okay, and let's say from Raleigh, these people are traveling back to their houses. Okay, one's going to Dallas, one's going to Cali, I'm going to New Bern, right? And let's say that somebody in the Raleigh airport comes in contact with me and they're going to Europe, right? Maybe I sneezed again. And so you start to see how one person is starting to get more and more people sick. So now it's turned into 4 people. And so what do? I get to Raleigh, right? Still feel fine. I get in the car. I get the people who pick me up sick. I go to work because I still feel fine. You can show symptoms up to 14 days after being exposed. I still feel fine. I go to work, and all of y'all who are in our classes are exposed to this virus, right? And then you go home to your parents or whoever you live with, and they go to work, and then their workmates go home, and it's a continuous cycle. And you start to see how it goes from one person to thousands to millions in a very, very short period of time. So how do you get rid of it? It's kind of what we're doing right now. Being smart about where we are and being hygienic. Wash your hands, take showers, stay clean. Don't go out in public unless it's necessary. But pandemic versus epidemic. We are living in a pandemic right now. Ms. Pate, anything else?
No, just kind of look over that movie because, like I said, it's really good.
What was the name of it again?
Contagion.
Contagion.
Mm-hmm. And it really shows it's PG-13, and there are some kind of parts in it that if you're like squeamish, you kind of want to turn away from. But it shows you how real life is.
Okay. All right, guys. We will see you tomorrow. We're going to be talking about biotechnology. Email us. Let us know what you're doing today. Do you have anything fun planned, or what you're watching on Netflix or Hulu? Bye.